Okay. Wi-Fi is a bit of an issue here, so let's see how we get on. I'm Irish artist Róisín O'Farrell. Most of you will know me, and if you don't, I paint colourful paintings in oil, which I sell across Ireland, the UK, and possibly soon to be the US. That's news to come. So what I'm going to do just on this Facebook live Q&A session is I'm going to go through a little bit more about what you can expect from one of my painting workshops. So I'm going to tell you what exactly we do, what I teach, what the environment is going to be like, the kind of people that come, and what you can expect. Because a lot of people, I find, are a little reticent to come to a group that they don't know. So I kind of just want to give you the information so that you know. Hi Mar. And then you can make a decision about whether it's right for you, and I'll tell you all about the booking and stuff, which is happening tomorrow. So I have a booking opening tomorrow at 1 p.m. for a 3-day painting workshop, which is going to take place in Airfield in, hi Kelly, Airfield in Dundrum in County Dublin. It's a beautiful venue. The estate is like a little oasis in the middle of the city. So it's a farm, it has a beautiful old house, and they have converted some of the outbuildings into purpose-built venues for workshops, so they're perfect for a painting workshop. Fabulous restaurant, great facilities. So I will come back to that. Hi Ruth. So I just want to, don't want to ramble on too much, because those of you who know me will know I can do that. I want to just go into what you can expect from the 3 days. So I've made a few notes to keep myself on track. Essentially, my workshops, although they're spread over the 3 days, hi Maria, one day you'll be there, although we had 2 people from Canada there last time. It's split between this idea of poetry and craft. And when I say poetry and craft, what I mean is that poetry is, in a way, the talent, the bit that you can't teach. It is, that's something that we have, that X factor, that wish to do something creative. But we can feed that, we can encourage it, we can feed it, we can learn how to develop it. The other side is craft, and that is the how-to do, the technique of how, and in our case, we're painting. So it is the technique in oil painting. So I split the 3 days into, first of all, mornings and afternoons. The mornings is the sort of more teachy part, and the afternoons are the more practical part. So you're kind of more hands-on painting for yourselves. And I also split it in that the first 2 days are devoted really to, is devoted to the technique part, and then the last day is really devoted to looking at the creativity. So, okay, what do I do? The first thing is to mention that I use, or I teach how to paint from beginning through to end. So I have a sort of 6 stages of painting that I use, and the first stage is composition, second stage sketching, then underpainting, mixing and applying the paint, and evaluation. So hi Teddy from Washington State. Very turbulent times over there for you guys, but I have lots of US people who follow and come to my workshops as well, both over here and when I'm in the States. So the 6-stage process, I'm going to just very quickly run through what I teach and how I teach it. So the first thing that I do is I use a limited palette. So I help people to set up the palette, and I explain why I use the palette that I use. So essentially, you can mix any color from this limited palette, and you don't need to buy hundreds and hundreds of those little tubes of paint that invariably get lost in the bottom of your basket, and you can't find them whenever you think of them, and they go hard, and you end up throwing them out. So those are the kind of things that are nice to have, but we keep it really simple in the course, and we work from our limited palette, and we learn how to use that so that you can mix any color. The next thing that I look at is your station setup and the equipment that you need. So I run through literally how to set up your station so that it is effective, so that you've got everything that you need, and also that you're not wasting time every time by having sort of a different setup and trying to find things. Then we move into the 6 stages of painting a painting from the beginning all the way through. And the beginning of that and the core of it is good composition. So, you know, when you're painting, if your composition is poor, it doesn't really matter what you do, what tricks you have. If at the painting stage you discover that your composition is poor, it's very, very hard to fix that painting. It can be done, and I actually do look at some tricks and tips that you can do for that. But we concentrate on getting the composition right at the beginning. And so I teach how to see good composition in front of you when you are actually deciding what you're going to paint. So we'll look at all the kind of stuff like measuring negative and positives, you know, using thumb and brush measurement, using your whole canvas, using a grid, rule of thirds, rule of odds, you know, all of these which are essentially tools to help you to create a good composition. There is no point in you trying to fix a painting at the painting stage when the composition is poor at the beginning. So, and in the exercise stage, which in every morning we'll be doing exercises as we're teaching, so you can actually learn as you go along. But I will also go around in the afternoon when you're actually going to paint a painting for yourself and help you see your composition and how to improve it. So I will sit down where you're looking at your composition from your eye line, and we'll kind of play with the composition of your still life so that you can get the best out of what you're looking at and learn how to see what a good composition is and what isn't, what's pleasing to the eye and what isn't. So then the next stage to do with composition is sketching. So the first thing we do before we start painting is we make a sketch of our painting, and what that does is it teaches us to see. You're learning like a shorthand of what your painting is going to be. So first thing is a loose sketch, and then we transfer that sketch onto the canvas. We're still painting from our still life, but we transfer the sketch onto the canvas. I'll also talk to you about size of canvas, type of canvas, how to prepare it, what matters and what doesn't matter, and all of those kind of things when you're choosing how big to paint or how small to paint, you know, whether you can use a panel or canvas or linen, you know, all that kind of stuff we'll go into as well. So there's a lot of work before we get to the actual painting, and the technique that I use is wet on wet. It's kind of an alla prima technique. So the really fun bit is when you get to actually apply the paint, but there's, as I said, there's a lot of work until before you get to that stage. So the next stage is the mixing the paint, and the way that I paint, the paint is mixed off the palette. It's mixed off the canvas. It's mixed on the palette. So at that point, what we do is we look at colour theory. So a lot of people are very frightened about colour or confused about how to mix colour. So we will look at how to mix neutrals, we will look at how to desaturate colours, make them look further away or closer. We will look at how to mix, you know, certain colours, because we're dealing with, you know, we understand the colour wheel, that's the basis of it. But the paints that we use are synthetic paints that are created, they're man-made paints. So although technically your colours are going to mix in one particular way on the colour wheel, but when you go to mix paints, because they're man-made paints, they sometimes react in a funny way. And so we will look at how to counteract that so that you can understand how to mix colour well to achieve the kind of things that you want to achieve in your painting. And then we get to the really fun bit, which is applying paint. And I, as you can see behind me, use a lot of paint and a palette knife and a brush as well. So I will be showing you how to use a palette knife, and we will also be using a brush, and particularly when we're painting small. The paintings that you will be painting every afternoon are going to be this kind of size and maybe even slightly smaller, sort of 6 by 6. So you'll come away with a couple of these over the 3 days. But to get the sort of application of paint that we want, we're going to be using a brush that has a square top to it, a bright short brush, a flat brush, or a palette knife. So we'll be doing a little bit of both of those. And then the final step in that 6-stage painting technique is evaluation. And really, it's not just the final step, because it's happening all the way along. So we're going to be stopping and looking at our painting and learning tricks to trick our eye, because you get looking at the same thing all the time. You start seeing what you think you see as opposed to what's actually there. So we learn how to actually see, what are we putting down, how is it going, what do we need to change, where do we need to change the tonal values, where do we need to change color or line or whatever. So so the key things really, that's the 6-stage process. Composition, sketching, underpainting, mixing and applying the paint, and then evaluation. The other key things in the technique are really understanding composition well, tonal value. We'll do lots of work on tonal value, get you to really see, your painting. We should be able to desaturate all the color from your painting, so it's black and white, and you should still be able to clearly understand what it's about. And that's all down to tonal value. So we're going to spend some time on that. We will look at making neutrals, which are the absolute secret stars of paintings. So we'll look at that, and mixing color, because everybody has trouble mixing color, I think. So that's the kind of technical side of it, the technique side of it. And practically how that will work is I will teach using videos, using images and notes on a projector, and talking you through it and demonstrating. And we'll stop then every now and again, and we'll do an exercise on what we've learned. So you'll be learning with your head, and you'll be learning with your hands and your eyes and the whole thing. So hi guys, hey Andy, I haven't seen you in ages. Miz, how you doing? Teddy, good to see you. So the second part of the course, so we talked about the craft and the technique. The how to paint, and everybody needs to do that in order to improve. So the essence of a beginner is that we're not very good at whatever it is we're doing, and you have to put in the hours, the practice, and learn your technique in order to become proficient at anything, whether it's knitting or fishing or golfing or anything. And the same is true of painting, in oil painting. And so we devote a lot of time, or I devote a lot of time in this course, to giving you the skills, step by step by step, to make you technically a better painting, and to have fun while you're doing it. The second part of it that I talked about was the poetry, and that's the stuff that makes us a creative. And it's the difference between somebody stopping you in the street when they're playing music because it touches you, or it's the heart in it as well. And you could say that you can't teach that's a kind of a talent thing. People say, oh, you're born with that, and how lucky you are to have it. That is true, yes. I think some people are born with more of it, if you like, than other people, but I don't really believe it's as simple as that. I think that most of us are born with some sense of that kind of creativity, and that sometimes it's shamed out of us when we're young, and sometimes we take on a story about that kind of part of us that isn't true. We can feed our creativity. We can learn to nurture that side of us. And if you think of creativity as a well, and if you are painting or being creative in any way, whether it's writing or music or anything at all, if you were drawing from that well all the time and you're not feeding it, eventually the well dries up. And so we will look at how you feed that well. And it really is, I think, just as important as the technical stuff, because it's by doing this that you find your voice, that you find the creative thing that you want to say. And in this context, it's with paint. But for a lot of people who come to my workshops, if I ask them about, they come to me and they might never have painted before. They'll have been into gardening, into creating designs with plants and colour and texture. They might have been into cooking and, you know, icing cakes and, you know, all of that. They could have been into, it's like it comes out some way. And painting is just one way that comes out for us. And wherever your interest leads you, if you put the time into practice and learning your craft, it becomes something that you become more articulate in using. And so, you know, a beginner by essence is someone who isn't very good yet, you know, and this course is about giving you the tools to actually get better at your craft. But it also really gets you to sit down and think about, am I feeding my creativity? Because if you're not going to go anywhere. It's going to become a technical exercise, or you will end up copying other people's work and not having any voice of your own. So we'll spend some time on the Sunday, which is the last day, looking at how we feed our creativity, how we make time in our busy lives to continue to learn our craft. We also do a little bit about, you know, actually doing the work, because you actually have to do the work to get better at doing the work. So, you know, you need to give that priority. We spend some time dealing with our inner assholes. Basically, our inner critic is, so this is a big area for a lot of people that are trying to paint or do anything creative, is that sometimes we get stuck at the point of the stuff that goes on in our head. You know, I'm not very good. I know what good is. I have good taste, and this is not very good. So we kind of look at dealing with the voice in our head, and sometimes it's somebody else's voice. Sometimes it's a voice from a parent or a teacher, and we learn how to practically step over that, use a counter voice, you know, reframe, and stop it from preventing us from moving forward creatively. We'll look a little bit about embracing opportunity and exercising compassion for ourselves. You know, we're such delicate flowers when it comes to creativity. We look at managing our expectations, because often, especially people of taste, have a big thing where they expect what they're going to do to be good, and that takes time. So, you know, we need to manage our expectations. We also need to be kind of careful about who we ask for feedback from. So choosing your critics very carefully. You want people who are going to give you honest, clear, constructive criticism, but not those people that push your buttons and that kick off those voices. So you need to be wise about who you ask. You know, maybe it's nobody in your family, you know, maybe it's not your best friend. You need to pick those people quite carefully for yourself. So that is on the Sunday. We'll be doing some exercises on the Sunday to do with all of those things. You know, creative focus exercises. We will, so the structure of the day is that each day is that in the morning there's a sort of teachy bit, and we do exercises as well all the way through that to apply what we're learning as we go. And then in the afternoon each day you will do a guided still life, where I will come around and help you set up your composition, and then you will paint that composition going through the 6 stages. And then also in the afternoon each day, if I can and get time, and I usually do, is I will do a demo painting as well. So it may be started and then I will paint. So if by the third day you're wrecked and want to sit down and just watch, you can do that, or you can keep painting yourself. So that's kind of how the 3 days pans out, just to give you a better idea of what's involved. The atmosphere is very relaxed. A couple of people have asked me questions like, okay, so I had somebody who was asking me about what the standard of the people coming to the course will be, because she hasn't painted for a long time. I had another person who hasn't ever painted, and I had another person who is actually an artist who wanted to know what the standard was. I've had all three kind of types of people do my workshops, and they coexist very well. So the people who come who are professional artists tend to be people who don't usually work in oil, and so they're coming to try something new, maybe to reboot, to do something fun that's outside of their own practice. The people who come a lot of people who come who are doing classes elsewhere, and they're looking to do some like a kickstart and to get some teaching. A lot of people come to me from referrals from other people who've been and sort of said, give me a good word in their ear. If you're coming, and I've had lots of people who came with a couple of people at the last couple of workshops who'd never painted, never picked up a brush in their lives, and in fact did some amazing work. So there will be no showing your work from the top of the class. There will be no making examples of people. It's very inclusive. It is about giving you the tools to learn and to move from wherever you're at, whether that's at the very beginning or somewhere in the middle or somewhere along the way. It's giving you tools to move to the next step. And there is loads in this workshop. You will be exhausted. So there's plenty there to help you. Like, there'll be things that apply to you at different times. So there will be plenty for you to learn. And in fact, people have come to my workshops as many as 4 times. So they're sort of learning as they go along. So really, wherever you're at, it doesn't really matter. You're going to get something out of it and be able to move on. Other things, a couple of people asked me about, you will get notes at the end of the class. As I told you before, most of the teaching parts of it, I have slides, presentation, and I will give you all the notes for the class. I will give you all the videos that I use in the class, and I will also give you a resource list of lots of other videos that you can find on YouTube, some of which you might already have seen. To give you kind of lots of places to go and to look at different techniques and styles and elements of teaching that will be useful to you. The other thing to mention is that after the course, I have a private Facebook group for the people who have successfully survived the course. And I will pop in from time to time and give you maybe something to do or a little exercise. And it is a way to support each other. So the function of the Facebook group, it's a private group. It's only for people who've actually completed the course. But there is a great camaraderie in that group, and people will ask questions and answer questions and talk to each other and have a bit of fun. As I said, the atmosphere is very relaxed. It's very inclusive. We have a bit of fun. There's a bit of chat and banter. It's something that, you will settle into literally when you arrive. There's tea and coffee, and by the time we're actually starting, you're probably going to know lots of people there. And that brings me to the venue. The venue is Airfield, as I mentioned, Airfield in Dundrum in County Dublin. We usually have a couple of people flying in, and it's pretty easy. Let me click that off. To get there from the Dublin airport. There is a coach bus that brings you in, and I can give you lots of information if you are flying in. It is just off the M50, so if you're coming from anywhere in the country and you're driving, easy done to come. It's literally 10 minutes off the M50, and it's also about 5 minutes from the nearest Lewis stop, tram stop that comes from the city, and also it's well serviced with buses and stuff. If you know where Dundrum Town Centre, which is a big mall type shopping centre, you will, it's right beside that. So the venue itself is a farm, estate, house, restaurant and outbuildings which have been renovated for workshops. They're state of the art. We have a very nice big room, so I'm kind of in the middle of it, so everybody is very close to me, and it's disabled friendly, wheelchair friendly. We have 2 kitchens, one for our messy stuff and one for our foodie stuff. There is a restaurant on site with fantastic food, and there's also the kitchen there, so if you prefer to keep your costs down, you can bring along a packed lunch. Lovely area to go for a walk or visit the house as well. If you need accommodation lists, I can give you that. So apart from that, I think that's pretty much it. Booking opens tomorrow at 1 o'clock. All of the details are on my website, which is roisinO'Farrell.com. And the course is $499, but there's an early bird deal which is $425, so you can save a few pounds on that. The only thing I will say is it usually books out before the early bird goes, so you know, it doesn't ever book out on the first day, so you know, you can relax about that, but it does usually book out within a week or two. There's a map, transport, venue information, all of that on the page on my website on roisinO'Farrell.com. The other thing to mention too is materials. Materials aren't included. There's a full list on my website. I usually use Evans in Town because they're pretty much the best value, I think, but you can shop around. They do deliver nationwide, but you might find it cheaper to go to somebody nearby. And they know pretty much what we need in terms of oils, you know, canvases, brushes, all those things, and they can help you with that. Nicola is the guy in there and he'll look after you. So that's pretty much it. I think that's really it. If anybody has any questions, just ask. If you're looking at this back later, put your questions into the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. The only other thing that I wanted to say to you before I go is that I will also be doing a 2-day painting workshop, not painting, but a business workshop for artists in February, 16th and 17th, Saturday and Sunday. And that is really for people who are looking to sell their work in one shape or another, or who are already doing so. So it would be for people who are either moving into that space or already doing so. And I look at, in that course, I look at a little bit of the things that we talked about, which was, you know, feeding your creativity, learning your craft and doing the work. We look at time management, we look at selling your work both online and through the gallery system, pros and cons of those. We look at marketing your work, social media, social proof, digital marketing, all of that. We look at branding, we look at finding your audience and finding your voice in that world. We also look at admin, tax, exciting things like that. So yeah, that's a good one for people who are painting, who are artists or who are makers and creatives who are looking to get an overview of their business skills and get a better idea of how the whole thing can work together and move them to the next step. You can check that out on my website if that's something that interests you, and all the information is on roisinO'Farrell.com. So that is pretty much it. I hope that was useful to you. Really looking forward to it. I absolutely love these workshops. I only do a couple a year because I love painting more. But you know, it's close. I love teaching, I love meeting with people, I love to see those aha moments and see people really progressing. There's nothing better. So I hope that you will join me. please don't feel in any way apprehensive about this workshop. If you are thinking about coming and feel I'm either not good enough or I won't feel comfortable, please know that I will do everything I can to make you feel at home and feel comfortable, and most people come away having had a great time. So with that, I shall leave you. Any questions, just ask, and until next time, I'll see you then. Bye.